Hello, my name is Carl Surrey and this is a video tutorial for the Facebook group called Fans of Serif Software. Now this tutorial will be about making a montage image, which is a collection of smaller images to make a bigger image. And I did originally do this as a written tutorial quite a long time ago now, and that tutorial was adapted from a Photoshop tutorial which I got from a CD from a magazine called Digital Photo. I did write and ask Digital Photo for the permission to adapt their Photoshop tutorial to be used with PhotoPlus, and they said that was okay. So first of all, what I want to do is to show you what I want to do with this image. Is this would be the textured background, and we're going to use a textured background to help sort of give the overall feel to the montage, and also to help hide some of the edges and what have you within the texture. Now in the original written tutorial I used this textured, and I just used the one texture. I'm going to expand slightly on that written tutorial by using a second texture, which is this blue denim one, in an effort to sort of demonstrate how you blend the images can differ from whatever the background texture is. So proving that you need to put as much thought into the textured background that you select as much as the images that you are going to add in to that texture. Right, both these textures I got from a website that supplies free textured backgrounds, and it is www.myfreetextures.com. I suggest you check out the My Free Textures website. They've got a lot of very good textures that you can use, and you can find one that will suit the type of montage that you are going for. Now I picked this sandy coloured one because I'm going to be using pictures of the area where I live, which is by the seaside, and I thought this sandy texture would help give the feel of the coast, whereas the blue denim one will not work so well with that, so we're going to have to sort of think differently. So what I'm going to need to do now is to bring in some images. Now I've already got a few here, but I'm going to select this one here. I made up this in PagePlus and saved it as a PNG file, so there was no background behind the lettering. So all I'm going to do is come up to select and select all, or you can press Control and A. Now this will be happening quite a lot, so I will not be going over all the various ways to do this every time I do it. I'm just going to describe it the once. So you select all. This will give you the marching ends around the outside. Then you come up to Edit and Copy, or Control and C. Then you come back to the texture you want to put this onto, come up to Edit, and then Paste as a new layer. And as you can see down here, we now have a second layer in the layers display area, and this is where the text is. Now before I go any further, I'm going to go to the other texture, and I'm going to again paste as a new layer on that. I will come back to this one in a minute, and I'll come to this one here. Now what I want to do now is obviously make this bigger because it is too small, and I'm going to come up to the transform command, which is the deform tool. Transform command is in Photoshop, very sorry. Deform tool is what it's called in PhotoPlus. You click on that and it will give you the outline of the text box here, and if I hold down the shift key and place the cursor over one of the corners, it will change to the diagonal arrows. I will click and hold and drag it out. Holding down the shift key will keep the proportions the same, so it doesn't get stretched in any way. I'll just make that a tad bigger, I think, and then I will just roughly center it. And that's okay there. So then I will come back to the blue image. Now obviously the blue text on this blue background, it is lost, but first I will just deform it first. So hold down the shift key, make it bigger, maybe a little bit bigger than that, roughly center it. So now what I need to do is to make this text a different color. Let me just get rid of the outline by clicking there. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to add a new colourize layer. What I'll do is add a colourize. Just open the colourize tool, come to adjust and down to colourize. And by default it already starts off in the red range, so it's already changed that text to red, which makes it stand out more. I'll just increase the saturation, make it a bit redder. Yes, I think that's better. That now stands out better on that blue background. Let me just move it slightly. Right, let me go back to the sandy background one, which is the one that I think works best. But like I said, you can alter the images depending on the background to suit your needs. Right, so now I need my first proper image for the montage, and I'm going to use this one of Walton Pier. So again, it's just select and then copy, come to your background and then paste as a new layer. Now obviously now this is far too big, so I'm going to again come to the deform tool, hold down the shift, and then rather than make it bigger like I did with the name, I'm going to bring it down in size, and then I'm going to move it to roughly where I want it, which is about there. Maybe make it just a slightly smaller. So I'll then come to this other background and edit, paste as a new layer, and then again reduce in size. Now both these backgrounds are not necessarily exactly the same size, so the position of them will be slightly different. That'll do for that one, I think. So let me go back to the sandy textured background. Now let me come off a deform tool. Obviously I now want this to blend better into the background. Now the blend modes are all found from this menu here, which is above the layers display area here. You have to make sure that the layer that you are working on is the one that is highlighted. So that would be the text layer, and that is the image layer. And then change the blend modes. Now, the magazine said that you can pick any blending mode that suits your image and your taste. But the 5 that will probably work the best is multiply, screen, overlay, soft light, and hard light. and they did say that hard light, sort of 9 times out of 10, will probably be the best option. But I will, if I put the cursor over the blend mode button and just use my wheel button, I can scroll through all the different blending modes to find one that I like for this image and this background. Overlay is not too bad. See hard light, which is the one they said would work 9 times out of 10. That looks very good. I'll come back to that, I think, but I'll just continue to scroll through these so you can see what they all look like. Lightness is not too bad, but I will go back to hard light. So that blends in quite well, but as you can see, you can see the line of the actual image there, and this is where we need to help remove this and help the blending of the images. Now you could, in theory, just go to the eraser tool and then start erasing this area around here to get rid of the line, but if you do make a mistake, it is much harder to undo it, especially if you don't notice it while you're going around. It's better to add a layer mask. Now, adding a layer mask to the layer, you have to make sure that this is the layer that is highlighted, and the button down here, there's like a white shield on a grey background. Add layer mask. You click that, and it will add a white layer mask to that layer. Now, because it is white, nothing has happened, because white will let you see everything that is there. What we need to do is paint black onto that layer mask to hide the bits that we don't want to see. Now, currently up here, my foreground color is white and the background color is black. Yours may be different depending on whatever it is you use last, but you can make them back to reset to black and white by clicking this little button underneath, and then you can click these little arrows to switch to make the foreground color black. You can also press the X key. It should do it, but it's not letting me do it for some reason. But pressing the X key should make those switch around. But make sure your black is your foreground color, and then come to your paintbrush tool. And with the paintbrush tool selected, you have your options for the paintbrush tool up here along the top, and we can click into this white box here and alter the hardness of the paintbrush tool. Now I'm going for quite a soft edge brush because I don't want, there's no point trying to get rid of a hard edge by using something that's also got hard edges. So I've got soft edges, so I've got the hardness set quite low on 8, and I've just slightly raised the spacing to about 12. So click OK on that, and then so we are painting onto the layer mask, not the actual layer itself. And you can tell that because it has a white line around the layer mask. If I click on the image, that white lines will now be around the image, and if I started painting now, it would be on the image. So if I go back to click on the layer mask, and you won't actually see black being painted onto the mask, but you can hopefully see that there's now black on the layer mask here. And just by painting around that edge, I'm getting rid of that hard edge and just helping that sandy area down there sort of blends in with the darker patch here, and I think that's okay. I'll leave it at that. I've just blended it in, and then you can't really tell that that image is not part of the background itself. So moving on to the blue background. Again, I will go through the different blending modes and see which one looks okay. Yeah, this would be a harder decision, I think. Linear light, not too bad. Vivid light is too much. See, again, hard light is probably the best option here. So again, I will add a layer mask. Black is still set as my foreground color, and I'm painting onto the layer mask. I can now get rid of that hard edge and then just blend in that blue of the sky and the water, hopefully a bit better with that blue denim feeling. It's not going to be as, I don't think it works as well as it did with the yellow background, but I think it's going to be the best I can do with that particular image. Right, that is that image done. On to the next one, which I'm going to use the tower image, which is Morton Tower. So I'm going to select it, copy it, and then paste as a new layer, except it's still got the other one in memory. I must have missed, when I did copy, I must have missed that. Let's try that again. That's better. Alright, so come to the deform tool, hold down the shift key, resize it, move it over to where I want it. There will do, I think. Edit, paste as a new layer, hold down the shift key, resize. Right, so this basically just going through the same process of finding a blending mode that works well with this particular image. And if I remember, because when I practiced this, there wasn't one that I found that worked so well with this background. No, because I think even hard light didn't work so well because of the blue, very strong blue in the background. So what I did was, let me put this back to normal. What I did was I again colorized it like I did when I changed the text on that blue background. So I come image, adjust, colorize, and what I'm going to go for is a sort of sepia color. I'll try to get a sepia color to try and get it near, or maybe even a yellowy color, to get it nearer the background. So hopefully it will blend in a little bit better. Just try it there, and now try the different blending modes. I see hard light again, it's quite good. I'll just quickly flick through the others. No, it's going to be hard light again. Then add the layer mask. In the paintbrush, black is the foreground colour, and then just paint away the edges. Now you can also, I did forget to mention that the opacity does help if it is a bit lower than 100%. I've got mine on roughly around 69-70%. So you just slowly blending that image in to the background. And if you do make a mistake and go over an area you don't want to, you can just change the foreground colour to white and paint it back in again. Same goes for the area around the outside if you wanted to. So which is why this is better to use a layer mask than just simply erasing, because if you spot you've made a mistake, it's easier to bring it back just by painting white onto the layer mask. So I will leave that like that. Go over to the blue background, and now we'll go for the different layer blending modes. Now, as this is a blue background and there's quite a lot of blue in the sky, hopefully this will blend a little better than it did on the sandier texture. Hard light. No, I think it's going to have to be hard light again. What I will do, I think, is this. I'll click on the background layer and I'm going to come up to Image, Adjust, Brightness and Contrast. I'm just going to tweak the blue background just to make it a little bit lighter, because it was quite a dark blue. It might help with the blending of some of these images. So now I've got that, I'll click back on the top layer, add the layer mask, paintbrush tool, and it's set on black, and then I will just start to blend this in with the background a bit better. Right, so that's those two images set. So now we want the next image is this image of a shell. So select all, copy, and then paste as a new layer. Deform tool, hold down the shift key to keep the proportions, and then move it into position. There we go on that one, and do the same on the sandy background. Add the layer mask. Oh, first I need to find a blending mode that works. See again, this is where the magazine was probably right, where hard light is probably the best option in most cases. Yes, it looks like it's going to be hard light again. So I've got my layer mask already added. Come to the brush tool and then just brush away these hard lines. And I mean, obviously I'm just doing this quite quickly. If you're doing this yourself, you can take your time. In fact, what I will do is I will just nudge this down very slightly, because it does seem to blend. It looks like it blends better, like that. Maybe there. Come back to the brush tool. That's the beauty of working with layers, you see, because you can come to any of the layers again and resize them or move them. If something's not working, you have that opportunity to keep going back and tinkering with it. Right, it's nearly there. Here we go. Right, let's go to the blue image background and find a blending mode that works. Yes, this is not going to be as easy. It's not ideal, but again, hard light does seem to be the best option. So I've had my layer mask, got my paintbrush tool, and then I'm just going to again paint away the background of the shell. Hopefully just leaving the shell pretty much as the only thing that you can see. And then I'll just come to the move tool and just reposition it slightly. So that is the 4 images, like the name and the 3 images. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save these both these images as they stand at the moment, just in case my computer crashes, and also I'm going to load in the next 3 pictures that I want to use in the top half. So I will be back in a minute. Okay, my images have been saved and I've loaded in 3 more images which I want to add into my montage, this being the first one, some beach huts. So again, I will select all, copy, go to one of my backgrounds and paste as a new layer, come to the deform tool, hold down shift, resize, move and reposition. A little bit of tinkering with the size, I think. Right, that one's okay. And then I'll come to the blue background. And deform tool is still selected, so remember to hold down the shift key so you keep your proportions when you use a deform tool. Alright, maybe just a little bit more. Right. So again, with our new layer, finding a blending mode that works. I will hopefully try something different at some point, but unfortunately, if hard light looks the best, again, so that probably looks the best on that. So these magazines know what they're talking about, you see. Hard light. Add the layer mask. Come to your paintbrush. Black is still your foreground colour. And then just start to remove the edges and help that image blend in. You can probably tone down some of this blue in the sky. There you go, that's better. Yes, quite like that one. I'll leave that where that is. Right, now this one I definitely will try something different other than hard light. I think when I practice this I use lightness, and I will just also lower the opacity very slightly, just to help some of that texture from the background show through. So add the layer mask and then paint out the hard edges, and I can pretty much leave that like that, I think. So I have finally used a different blending mode. Right, onto the next image, which is a place where you can just sit and watch the sea and the beach area. So select all, copy, and then paste as a new layer, deform, hold down shift, and then just tinker with the size and the position till you're happy. Right, I think I'll leave that one there. Come to the blue background one, paste as a new layer. Deform tool is already selected, so I'll just position this one. Right, so let's see which blending mode works. With the blue background first. What's that one? Oh, surprise, surprise, it's hard light. Could just go for the silhouette, but no. Don't really want to go for lightness twice, but even the hard light doesn't look. Oh, that's vivid light. That's hard light, yes. I think that might be the best choice again. So add the layer mask, paintbrush. Now I am going to be taking out these people as well. I just want the sort of seat area, because I want something to go in between these two images in the corner. What I will do is I'll lower the opacity down quite a bit, and then just slowly blend in this sky area to the background. Right, let's bring this back up again. The opacity to wherever I think it was 69% I had it on. That's near enough. Just finished taking away these hard edges. There you go, that will do. Right, let's come back to the other background. Again, we need a blending mode. Hopefully darken's not too bad. Let me just move that down slightly more into the light area. Alright, as an experiment I'm going to keep it on darken. Right, let's add a layer mask, get the brush tool and start taking away this area here. Let's bump up the opacity to 100, so definitely get rid of that area over here, and then lower the opacity down quite a bit. That just sort of help blend that in. Right, I'll just move it again slightly. Get the brush tool again and just try and take away some of the hard edge around this, the back edge of this photograph. Help blend it in a bit. That will do. Right, on to the next picture, which is the Columbine statue. Now, I don't want this whole picture, I just want a part of a picture. Now, in one of Martin Mackay's earlier requests was about selecting a heart shape and adding it to his montage. Now, I'm not going to do a heart shape, but if you wanted a heart shape or other shape, you can just come down to the quick shape selection tool and select the heart shape or one of these other shapes, but I'm going to use the normal rectangular selection tool, and I'm just going to select just the statue really. And once I've got the marching ants around that area, just copy it, come to my image, and then edit, paste as a new layer, and there we have the Columbine statue only and not the whole picture. So edit, paste as new layer, use the deform tool, hold down shift, resize, move to reposition, right, I'll leave that one there, and hold down the shift key to resize. Right, that's alright for position and size, I think. Now we need a blending mode. There we go, it's going to be hard light again, it looks like. Right, add the layer mask. So it's just a lot of repetition really. So then just start to paint out the edges. Let's increase my opacity up bit more to help speed this along a bit. I mean, if you start off with a fairly low opacity, obviously it's probably going to end up looking better, but I'm just doing this for speed. Alright, nearly there. Right, I just will change back to white foreground colour because I've taken a bit of the shadow away, which I want to keep. Right, so onto the other montage. Let's see which blending mode works. So it is much harder with this blue background than it is with the yellow to find one that really works well. I wonder if I go back to normal and let's try changing. I won't colorize it. What I'll do is I'll go to black and white, change it to a black and white image, and then see how the blending mode works. So there's no rules with this, you can tinker with it, change the colours, and by using colourize or just making it black and white like I've just done. I mean, if I want to go for a silhouette type thing, I could go for linear light, but hard light with the black and white version looks quite good. So I will add the layer mask, and then I will just start to delete around the edges. So I'm just getting that sort of silhouette of the statue without any distraction of colour, which I quite like. Right, and then what I will do is I'll just move it so there's a bit more in between those two images. So that could pretty much be it, because I had only really planned to do 6 images and the name in the middle, but I do have quite a big space here, and similarly on this version I have a sort of big space here as well. So this is why it's always a good idea to select more images than you really think you may want to end up with, because in that way, if you do end up like me, you end up with a space that looks a bit bare. I mean, admittedly I could start resizing things or moving things around, but I'm not going to do that. What I'll do is I'll select a new image which I haven't loaded in yet. Let's go for this seagull one here. And select it. And then paste as a new layer in that background. And then paste as a new layer in this background. Come up to the deform tool. Hold down the shift key, resize it. Reposition it. It might be okay there. Right, let's find the blending mode for this one. I don't want to go for hard light again. Linear light. Linear light's not too bad. I'll try that one. Right, add the layer mask. Come to the paintbrush tool. Let's bump up the opacity to near 100 so I can erase it off of this top part quicker. I think I'll take out that bird there as well. Alright, now I've got most of the edges off, I'll just lower the opacity down and try and blend in some of this background. As I get near the bird, I'm going to lower it down even more, just so the background blends in a bit better and the bird stands out a bit better. Not perfect, but I think that will do. And then go for the blue background. Again, find a blend mode that works with this background. Might be harder to get one actually. I might have to stick with lightness. Let's just reposition it slowly. And just lower the opacity of the layer so some of that texture behind shows through. Add the layer mask, get the paintbrush, and again what I'll do is I'll bump up the opacity quite high just to delete the majority of this image, and then lower the opacity down just to help to blend that in a bit better and much more subtly. There we go. And what I will do is I'll go back to the deform tool and I'm going to make it a bit bigger. And then reposition it. There you go. Right, if I zoom out a bit there, I could also come back to the bottom text layer, use the deform tool and then just increase that size a bit. So I think that's both montages finished. Now, for my personal taste, I prefer the sandier background. One, because it's lighter and brighter, and the images work better, I think, than it does on the blue and darker background. But I'm hoping that using the two different backgrounds with the same images, you can see how you get different problems with different backgrounds and different images. So your solutions to those problems can vary from changing to a blending mode that you didn't think you would need, but like the lightness one, which I used on this one and this one, which is not one of the recommended ones that was in the magazine, but I think they worked best. Or the other solution is like to changing an image to a black and white using the image effects menu, image adjustments and menu, and then either picking colourize or black and white to see whether that will help your images work with whichever background you select. Well, I'm hoping that all made sense, and I'm hoping this answers a lot of Martin's questions. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.